The Hathur I returned to was the same hovel, but painted white and trimmed with gold, as if the paint had been all that was wrong with the dilapidated shacks that made up the local stores and residences. Packed and bustling as the rest of Yorgos had been emptied, lit by dozens of mountainous bonfires lined on either side of the road into town, where, beyond the threshold, music and merriment made their call. Here, men and women alike celebrated and danced in its streets as night descended, the crowds dressed in ostentatious colors and elaborate finery, despite clearly being peasants with splotchy skin and rotten teeth. I marveled at the masses. The population must have doubled or tripled since I left. What's more, everyone was older than I was. Eyes followed our party with great interest, but I couldn't help but feel that many focused on me. Seemingly endless tables of food lined the main street, a banquet replete with quail and chicken, bowls of black bread, a buttery venison stew full of garlic, onions, and carrots, and platters of fruit pastries, sweet cakes, and pies. Land spoke for us all. "We've arrived in paradise." Our guts seemed to cry out in unison, the aromas mouth-watering. All else forgotten, land and the surviving stars dropped their muskets and rushed for the food. I joined them, stuffing my face full of the first thing I could grab, a raspberry tart with jelly that exploded with sweetness. Sugar. Real sugar. This cost a fortune even before the famine. Legs of chicken, hunks of bread, a bowl of stew followed. Quaffing water, I realized someone was missing. I looked back, and sure enough, Bishop hovered at the edge of town, refusing to partake of the bounty. Feeling guilty, I returned to him a second raspberry tart, secreted up my sleeve for later. Bishop frowned at my joviality. Cleric Paulus went missing after he arrived in Hathur. He nodded at my sleeve, eyebrow raised. He may have been poisoned. I considered. Well, everyone's partaking. The hero's not going to poison everyone, is he? Bishop rolled his eyes. The sheer fact that you need to ask that question should tell you, Faron. He seemed ready to say more when something behind me had made his jaw drop. A jester pranced towards us, gangly and thin, his frilly white outfit dirty at the edges, a bucket atop his head festooned with cowbells, and a face painted in yellow and purple motley. His right hand was a burnt husk, as if he'd placed it in the fire. Over the annoying clang of his bells, the fool sang, "All the world's a stage, all the world's a stage, a home for knights and knaves, who's the fool when the hero plays?" He landed in front of us and gave an exaggerated bow. Bishop blinked repeatedly. "Paulus?" The fool wagged a finger, his many bells ringing. "Twinkle toes." The truth made my ears ring, as if a hammer had hit me upside the head. "When you stopped sending messages, we assumed the worst," Bishop struggled to say. The former cleric cocked his head quizzically, while behind him, Lan and the stars shared in the town's festivities. "Messages?" "Yes," Bishop insisted. Your name is Paulus. You're a servant of the sole creator of the church and all his glory. Don't you remember?" "Hathur is where I am, Hathur is where I've been," Paulus, or Twinkle Toes, smiled broadly. "But I've never left the inside of my head." Bishop's shock turned to sadness. "Come, Faron, we'll find no help here." He gave cleric-turned-fool a wide berth and forged a path through the crowded streets. "Madness makes sense of a mad world," Twinkletoes' whimsical voice called after us. "When lies told are lies learned." I dropped the tart from my sleeve and stepped on it, my stomach in knots. The 7 of us slipped to the town square, where every Yorgosi town built a star-shaped chapel in honor of the sole creator and the church who represented him. But that was not what we found. The chapel where I had first prayed to the creator was gone. In its place stood an ugly square of white marble veined black, like a spider's web of cracks across the surface of the pale edifice. The new building was triple the size of the previous, not high, but so wide as to eclipse the entire marketplace, whereas the previous merely occupied a quarter. Pillars every 6 feet held up the stone sky, and beneath it a square had been dug out to create an enclosed coliseum. A skylight in the roof let in light on the rows of seats surrounding the curtained stage, atop which stood a fully assembled and gleaming white suit of knight's armor. Encircling the skylight was a mural mimicking the night sky, a specific constellation highlighted in the artist's rendition. 19 stars united to depict a Yurgosi warrior holding the decapitated head of a witch, whose legend said he slew for having snakes for hair. Hooded men in white robes and white featureless masks stood at every pillar and handed out duplicate masks to those who entered the heretical temple. One tried to hand a mask to Lan, who slapped it out of his hand with a snarl. "Creator, curse your pagan heresy!" "Calm yourself, Lan. They are no threat to us," Bishop said. "Fan out with your men and discover what you can of the hero's performances from these peasants." The answer, we found, was nothing. The peasants, dressed in discordantly garish costumes, could not stop praising the greatness of Lord Hathur's play, but when asked about any details in specific, they deflected or denied our requests and returned to unmitigated adulation of the hero. Of all the people who claimed to have seen the mystery of the Pale King, none would or could describe exactly what happened in the Lord's play. After several fruitless efforts to extract information on my own, I searched for Bishop in frustration and found him hiding in the shadows of a pillar, not even having descended into the bowels of the pagan temple. Then I saw he wasn't alone. Curiosity my vice, I crept to the pillar and edged around it until I could overhear the pair's whispered conversation above the din of the crowd. The mysterious voice was a woman's, bitter and wry. "Had you not abandoned Hathor for the holy city, our gods for your one and only, and your name for Bishop Antonius?" "Not that any of the efforts saved me in the end. Here I am," Bishop sighed. "I didn't seek you out to refight old battles, Maggie. I'm here because of the evil this temple honors." I risked a glance around the pillar. A guilty bishop questioned a beautiful plump woman in a black dress, her bushy brown hair so long the locks reached her knees. "I gave up long ago wondering the reasons men do what they do," she said pointedly. "Convincing others to save themselves is a fool's errand, Bishop." "Don't call me that, not you," Bishop said, abashed. "You know why I had to leave." "And look where you ended up." There was no joy in her words. He looked more tired than I had ever seen him. "Maggie, the church, the Archbishop gave me a message from the King Leo himself. Our mission, the Lord's forfeiture, is merely a pretense. The king has ordered his death by my hand."